call to order the City of Oconomowoc Common Council for Tuesday, October 6, 2020. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Thank you very much. Would all rise and for Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Roll call, please.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Alderman Kavieski.
Here.
Alderman Rogers.
Here.
Alderman Rozek.
Here.
Alderman Zaffel.
Here.
Alderman Ellis.
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Thank you so much. A motion to approve meeting minutes.
Mayor, quick point.
Oh, yes.
I guess this may be a point of information, but I voted first last meeting. I just wanted to see why I'd be voting first again.
Did you?
Yes.
I think
Well,
Mulder
Okay.
did.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I could have swore I did, but yeah, okay. I apologize.
No
Yeah.
apology, it's fine. I
Stuck
don't
on the
pay
first
I was
both
going to
times.
believe you. Because
Powerful seat. First is better.
attention. Our plan was
First is
just to
the
have
safest.
Alderman Rozak do it first every time. So, is there a motion? Okay, on to serious business. So may I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for September 1st, 2020?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rozek, or excuse me, Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozek.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Thank you so much. Comments and suggestions from citizens. We're going to start off. It's my pleasure to have us be able to swear in our newly appointed Director of Public Safety, James Pfister, and that'll be done through our City Clerk, Diane Conan. Welcome aboard, Captain, soon-to-be Chief Pfister.
So if you would raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully discharge the duties to the office to which you have been appointed, and that is Public Safety Director and Police Chief for the City of Oconomowoc, to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Jim. If you would sign your oath, please. I will sign it, and then you are officially sworn in as our Public Safety Director and Police Chief. Here is your certificate of appointment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, thank you. So,
You have your name tag up at the new place yet?
what's that?
Did you get your name tag up there yet?
No. Right. So, just briefly, if I can make a comment on it. I'd really like
Do you want me to start the clock?
So, yes, please. It's not going to take that long. So I'd just really like to thank the Police and Fire Commission going through the process and selecting me as the candidate to go forward. Mike Miller from the Police and Fire Commission is here tonight, so I'd like to thank you for your support in going forward on this. And Alderman Shellpepper, who's on the panel as well. I appreciate you being there with the Police and Fire Commission. And I look forward to working with this council, the mayor, and the new city administrator. And it's dear to my heart, this community, because I live in it. And I really, going to work hard to keep this community safe. And I believe in transparency with the police department and with this council as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And just a personal note, Chief, you're going to be very busy in this next 6 months, and we're looking forward to working with you and doing some neat things with ordinances and a lot of things to help give you the resources that you need. So welcome aboard. Do we have any other public comments at this time? With no public comments, we'll move on to consent agenda items. I have a motion to accept the 3 consent agenda items.
Motion to approve consent agenda items as listed.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to pull out I'd like to pull out 6C.
Does
there
it
a
need to be yeah, I'll second if it needs a second.
Any further discussion?
I don't know if it needs a vote, though, to pull out an item off the consent agenda.
No, sh-
Does it need a vote to pull it out? I don't know if we've ever
Says
voted
a
on it
council
before.
member may request.
I think we've done it in the past, but I don't think it needs it.
Mhm. Sounds good, so granted. No. No, that's fine.
As a
We'll
courtesy.
pull that out. Motion on the table is a consent agenda, items A and B. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shell Pepper,
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis,
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
We'll move on to consent agenda, item C, ordinance 20-0984, amending sections 3.08, 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 of the municipal code regarding room tax. This is the second reading.
If I may be heard on the reason I pulled it out, thanks, Mayor. I voted against this last time. I'm not in favor of increasing taxes, especially in the time of the economic downturn that I think we're going to continue to face. And I think just charging people more, even if they're not from the community, is good for us. I understand the theory behind it, but I just thought it's something that should get pulled out because I do want to vote against that and not against licenses or joint powers agreement. So
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to,
Accept this consent agenda item?
Second reading.
I'll make a motion for the second reading for this consent agenda item 6C.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes, Alderman Shell Pepper.
I struggled with this one. I approved it originally because I understand the reasoning behind it and it makes sense. But I guess as I've learned more about it, it seems like, from my understanding, all this money is going to the economic development, correct? Is that?
Yes, it
department?
goes there and 70%, the rest goes into the
70% of
city.
it does. And how much of the budget from that department is being used for the marketing intern? Is it 100%, do we know?
No, not at all.
No. Is the marketing intern being funded 100%
Yes.
through that?
Let me,
department.
finish your question. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm
Yeah,
clear.
my question is the marketing intern that is on the current upcoming budget being funded 100% by that
No.
economic development?
No, a little over $7,000 is going to be pulled out of tourism because that's being divided among 3 different groups.
And
of
so
different
it's also
departments.
being funded from where?
It's being funded from utilities and it's being funded from, what was the third one? Somebody help me.
I thought was there still a private donation aspect to it?
No, there's not a private
That
donation.
it's
That's only this
utilities,
one.
tourism,
Tony might
and
know.
Is
Tony?
it Park and Rec?
No.
No?
Oh, it's economic development, tourism, and utilities.
Utilities.
Okay. So I do not agree with the marketing intern and we've been through that again. We don't need to go through it again. And just because it seems like the majority of those funds are being used, to pay, the taxes being used to fund that position, not 100%, I understand that, but it's still being used for that type of position. And that's why I'm going to change my vote tonight, so. Just
Thank you
wanted to
for
put it
sharing.
out there.
Alderman Kavieski.
So I was in favor of this first time around. I'm still in favor of it. There are limited opportunities for us as a municipality to gather funds to support and promote our city and those events and that economic development activity that goes along with that. The room tax is designed to assist this municipality and our community to promote ourselves out in the public eye. I think our resources that have done that have done a good job. We are and have become an event-driven destination location. That is obviously a struggle in this current time. There are limited opportunities for room tax as they currently exist because we only have 2 hotels that support our city. And we went through this in an email exchange with a resident. I would not be for this if this was a redistribution or punitive tax. This is a tax very much in line with all of our surrounding municipalities, and anywhere you go that you stay at a hotel, you're gonna pay a room tax. The room tax associated with this particular ordinance is 8%. It's nowhere near what you would pay in a big city, such as Milwaukee or Chicago or any of those. The money that is provided through this room tax, if we didn't do anything with it, the intern that Alderman Pepper is discussing, those monies would still come out of that bucket and just leave less to promote our city and its purpose as tourism. So I would recommend, I would request support for this moving forward. It just provides the proper allocation of funds associated with the activity to promote our city. So,
Any further discussion? Alderman Rozak.
So I didn't pull this out to make it a big controversy at all. I just pulled it out because I think taxes should be voted on separately and not in a consent agenda item. And I should have probably mentioned it to the mayor before the meeting, that we should have just voted on separately. I'm just against raising taxes just to raise taxes to fund things we think we need to fund on folks. This is a tough vote for me too. And the FPF was another tough vote where we raised taxes on the water bills. So it's a tax increase. No matter who you're charging it to, it's a tax increase. So I just thought we should vote on it separately. It's something we should consider separately from, the more basic items. So.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Well, you know how I felt about this initially, and I still feel the same way. I think it behooves us to take advantage of the statutory maximum of the 8% right now, which is still a small percentage compared to so many other communities around us. So I will be still voting for this.
Any further comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Pepper,
Nay.
Alderman Kavieski,
aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Nay.
Alderman Zaffel,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis,
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Let's move on to committee reports. Personnel.
Did we
Consider
approve
act on revision of employee handbook allowing for the hiring of a limited liability term employee. Tony?
I'll make this fairly brief. Currently, the city employee handbook is currently missing specific language allowing for the hiring of a limited term employee, LTEs. We do have a temporary category, but it's general and vague. So if we look at our past and our future, we do hire limited term employees. It's infrequent, but to fill in for staff vacancies when needed. The addition of the LTE category and its language is only beneficial and makes the employee handbook better, given it's just more specific, and that's really what I'm looking to do. The language I'm proposing to adding to the employee handbook is limited term employee, if current staffing is limited, not qualified, or unable to serve as an interim or perform the work during a temporary short-term staffing need, an LTE may be utilized up to 6 months when needed with human resources and city administrator approval. The LTE pay rate will be based upon the vacant position's assigned pay grade or established seasonal hourly rate when appropriate. LTEs are temporary and non-benefited employees. So therefore, it's just very specific and will be helpful. So I'm looking for a motion to recommend adding the LTE category to the employee handbook. Questions?
Like to open it up?
Yeah, I've got a couple with this one. One of the background reasons was when current staff is unable to complete the work. And I guess I'm curious how that's defined. I mean, is it current staff thinks that they're just busy? Current staff is working overtime? How do we define that? Or current staff just thinks, I've had a real busy 2 months. I want to bring an LTE in for 6 months to fill, do a bunch of work. I mean,
Unable.
that's just, how is that defined and how do we limit that?
Want better definition, we could. I mean, unable is somebody that's either unable because they don't have the skill set, don't have the time, we don't have the ability. And in our situation for the city is most of the time we do try to fill it with our current staff, but when we just don't have the talent or the resources to fill it, and it's rare and it's infrequent.
Well, and I understand that, and I appreciate that, and I think you're doing a good job, Tony, on some of this stuff. And I understand what the request is here. But when I look at if current staff is actually unable to complete a job, then we need to consider whether that staff member is someone that should stay on, and we replace that person with someone who is able to complete the job, or our limited time that we replace that someone is not 6 months. I mean, if you really need a new staff member, or someone's quit or resigned or whatever, or retired, I would think 3 months would be long enough to replace that person. 6 months is a big chunk of number. So if we're replacing, just because Diane's looking at me, we replace Diane or we need another Diane for 6 months, that's pricey, right? You know, that's a staff level head kind of number, that's expensive. So I think there's just a little bit too much wiggle room in here. My proposal would be we move this to 3 months. I still don't know if I'm in favor of it, but that's something, I'll just throw it out there for discussion. I'm not ready to amend yet, but.
Matt, can I add?
Yeah.
My concern for, the reason for putting the 6 months is we do have some positions that are very hard to fill. I don't see us ever going to 6 months, but I want that ability to go there. Engineers are extremely difficult to find. When we go through journeyman linemen, they're extremely difficult to find, and it may not be that easy. 3 months is 90 days, not so sure. You know, we could do it in that time. We try to. Most of the time it's FMLA, maternity leave, that type of situation. I'll give you another example. City administrator left June. We're already into October. So if we wanted to have somebody come in temporarily, you know, that we're already at 4 months. So that's the reason why I kind of went to 6 months.
Alderman Mulder?
Yeah, I hear you, Matt. I think the language is a little bit open, but I think because this is not meant to address a specific need or a specific position, it's meant to be a statement that allows a category of worker to be employed should we need them. It necessarily needs to be broad to allow that, and we trust staff to make appropriate decisions based on need and based on finances available. And you know, if someone is unable to do the work because of performance, this shouldn't be the document that dictates that or turns that up for us. That should be through the normal process. So I feel like this is just a tool that the city can use when they need to fill a vacancy, and it shouldn't be used to try to dictate any other policy or really ferret out any other flaws in the system or in particular employees. I think it's broad enough to get done what needs to get done without providing any opening that staff's going to try to sneak through. So
A lot of times it's used too for pregnancies, and especially if you have medical issues with pregnancies, that's going to be much more than 3 months. So that's another example. Alderman Rozak.
Yeah, and I hear you guys. There's some good stuff in here. Their LTs are temporary, not benefited. I like that we're not trying to pay benefits either. That's a cost savings for sure. But you look at the beginning, it says current staffing is limited, not qualified, or unable to serve. So, I mean, we're saying that we have someone that we need to bring in for 6 months because our current staff member is not qualified to do some project or some job. I guess that's where I'm struggling with it. So I think I don't know when we're gonna see this until the budget cycle, that we've hired an LTE and we paid someone for 6 months to fill in some area, or is this just get flowed into the budget and we never know about it again? So that's part of the oversight I think council's job is. I'd be comfortable for 3 months. I'm not comfortable at 6, so.
Alderman Mulder.
I guess the thought is the not qualified. If are ably qualified, Ivan, we have an IT project that's going to extend, and we need to bring someone in that has specialty, and it's more efficient to bring in someone as an LTE versus hiring out to a consultant who's going to be more expensive. Or I can, you know, through my experience in business, I can just see these coming up time and again where it's just more efficient to bring someone in short term to get a job done, and more cost effective than taking it out and hiring it out to a consulting firm or someone else. So.
Alderman Ellis.
That's a maximum of 6 months, am I correct?
Correct, yep.
Would anybody like to make a motion? Or, excuse me, Alderman Shellpepper.
How often do we end up needing to use these LTEs? I mean, or how many times, I mean, right now, I guess we're not able to do it, correct? We're not able to
We
utilize
can do it
now?
underneath the temporary category. I'm just not comfortable doing it there. It doesn't happen that often. I mean, because we do have a temporary category. I could just say it's temporary. I just want a better definition.
Yeah.
I thought by putting this in there that it would have been better, but apparently not. But,
Well, just for me.
yeah. But it is rare. We have a maternity leave situation right now where it's just it's a small Department of Public Works. They just can't do it. They need somebody there to be there to take that role. Several times in the library when we're short on some skilled staff member that's there, we'll bring in somebody just temporarily till we fill it. Almost actually every time, when it comes to a vacancy, we're pushing to fill it. We want it filled with a full-time person. We're not going to wait, and I don't even want to wait till 6 months, but it's just there in case I need it.
So, like in a given year, how many
One or
times?
two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not very
Pretty
often.
rare. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Alderman Rogers.
So if we already do a temporary position, and I know we've talked about the LTE in the past, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What's the difference?
I want specific in there in terms of talks about it because you can go up to 6 months.
So I understand that,
Yeah.
but
Let me give you a little context behind that.
please.
I have in my head, because I'm going off of the old employee handbook, and when that word was put in there, temporary, it really meant seasonal in my mind. So when I read that, it really is for a seasonal employee that's just here for the season. So that's why I want the limited term in there, or an intern, they're just here temporarily for a budgeted and filled position. This is just something this is going to handle vacancies in limited term situations.
But is that the same definition as temporary currently?
We could go
Or
with
not.
it if you want, but yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. Yep, correct. It's very close. I'm just trying to get a little bit more clarity.
But even when I read this and I don't use LTEs, I'm going, this is about as general as you could ask for a temporary position. So I guess what I'm asking is, I don't see the benefit of going, I guess I don't understand why we need to do this if you already have something in place that's working and it's not cost.
It's not going to cost you either way. It's just I want to be a little bit more specific in terms of if we want a limited term employee, we can have it. It always comes down to who has the authority to do it. I'm like, well, it does say temporary, but in my mind, temporary means our seasonal staff.
Alderman Kavieski.
Is there a definition of time for temporary comparatively to limited?
I can tell you how it's defined. Employees hired on a temporary basis, example, seasonal labor or interns.
But that could be a year.
General.
It could.
Correct.
There's no time period at all associated with a temporary, but in a limited, we're defining a limited period of time to 6 months.
Correct, yep.
So there's a more defined scope to a limited as opposed to temporary.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Nay.
Alderman Rozak.
Nay.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Posnick. Let's move on to consider act on ordinance 20-0983 to amend section 12-043G1 of the City of Oconomowoc Municipal Code regarding issuance of operators' licenses. First reading.
So moved.
Diane,
Oop, I'm sorry.
do you have any further comments, Diane, before we?
I would basically repeat what I said at the Protection and Welfare Committee meeting, although two of the aldermen weren't there, so I don't know if they want me to go over this or answer any questions.
Well, for
Happy to do
public
either way.
record, why don't we do a summary, please?
Okay. So back in 2018, state statutes were amended that allows, language was put in that allows municipal governing body by ordinance can authorize a designated municipal official to issue operators licenses. The reason I'm bringing this forward is currently It takes approximately 2 weeks for an operator's license to be issued. That's a bartender's license. And that is because we have 2 council meetings a month, and it has to go through a process before we can put it on the council agenda. And that's always under our consent agenda, under the license area. And bartenders who come in are looking to start work immediately, or as immediate as possible, and also the businesses that they're going to work for are looking to have them start right away. And since this code has, or excuse me, the statutes has been amended, it has been something I've been thinking about, and bartenders, applicants, businesses have asked about it. So with the police department moving now over to their new building, I thought I've got to get this moved forward. So Chief and I discussed it, and our process would remain the same. So we would take the application, the clerk's department reviews it for completeness and make sure that it passes all statutory requirements, as well as they produce the responsible beverage training course certification. Then we send it over to the police department, who runs a background check, and then they sign off on it and they mark approval or denial. We're talking about approvals here right now. So if the police department approves it and council amends the code, then I would be able to issue that license. And so that would cut the time frame down to within a couple of days, because it could take up to 3 days for the background check to be completed. So if it's denied, it would come to council under the licenses on the agenda, so council would have the final say in that denial or not. In addition, council would still, under the licenses, be approving amusement devices and vendors, agent changes for your Class A, B, and C licenses, taxi cabs and quadricycles, and picnic licenses. And then on a final note, every time, once a month after there's 2 council meetings, we put together a list of all licensed bartenders. So we add to that list after each month. And we give it to the police department, and then they have a list of all licensed bartenders in the city. So when they do their bar checks, and if somebody, by chance, doesn't have their license with them or it's not posted at the bar, they can look at that list to make sure that that person has a valid license in the city. We would continue to provide them with that list, and at Protection and Welfare, the members had requested that that list be provided to the aldermen as well. So when we send it to the police department, we would include the alderman on that. So you would see who now has a bartender's license in the city. I think that sums it all up.
Alderman Ellis.
So if I hear you right, you're just trying to streamline the whole process.
Yes, for the benefit of the licensee and the
and
business.
And Diane, exactly.
Anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion,
Second.
and I'd also like this to be the second and final reading.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
I'd second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Shellpepper,
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis,
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye. Thank you. We'll move on to staff reports. We have, as you requested, an election update. Ms. Cohen, if you can give us a little status report, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So on September 17th, we enlisted the help of 16 volunteers to mail out an astounding 4,406 absentee ballots, which was the number of requests we had received at that time. So we got those all out on that day, and it was quite an assembly line. So since then, we do receive daily requests from voters for registration and for absentee ballots. And for example, today we received 49 requests. So every day we receive a varying number. It could be as little as 10, it could be 50 or 60. And so we must process those by the next day. So we get them in from, 1 a.m. in the morning, you know what I mean? They keep coming through. So we have a 24-hour turnaround. So we get those out. So I want to give you a few numbers today as of 4 p.m. So the total absentee ballots that we have mailed out so far is 5,324. So that's about 1,000 more since we did it on September 17th. We've mailed out. The total number that we've received back, so people now have received them, voted them, and sent them back to us, is 2,407. So of the number I told you we've mailed, we still have like 3,000 out there waiting to come back. The number of registered voters as of June 1st was 11,352, and today it's 12,328. So we've increased it by approximately 1,000 in those couple of months. We've got a lot of growth in the city, so it's not surprising that we have increased like that. So I want to tell you, we've got in-person absentee voting at City Hall starting on Tuesday, October 20th, and it ends on Friday, October 30th. There's no Saturday and Sundays. We do have the hours posted on the city website, on our Facebook page, and then it will be posted on the doors of City Hall as well and our other municipal buildings in case people like the library and that, they can see if they look at the posting. In addition to our workload with this, because it's a daily workload and it's phone calls, people at the counter, and emails, we are in the process of contacting volunteers to schedule their help for in-person voting during those 2 weeks, for pre-numbering the absentee ballots, and for processing the ballots on Election Day. So all those volunteers, plus our poll workers, have to be trained. So I have scheduled 2 full days of training coming up this month to be able to handle that. It is, unfortunately, elections right now is all-consuming. I mean, every time you turn around between me and my staff, Chris and Tina, that's what we're doing. We're doing elections. So we are managing to fit in some of our other workload, but it's not getting done as quickly as normal. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or if you want to know about comparisons.
Sure, just a quick question. I had a constituent ask me, so the myvote.wi.gov or whatever, they have the dashboard, and you return your ballot, and it's turned in, lights up blue. There's no issues on that ballot, correct?
When the ballot is returned, right, when we receive it back in the mail.
So if there is an issue, you notify them?
Yes, we
Okay.
check it for
Thank you.
completeness.
Cool.
Alderman Kavieski.
When absentee ballots are returned, and you said you had over 2,000 that
yes.
have been returned, where
Yes.
are they secured between the time that they're received and vote day?
So when we receive them, we have to accept them into the statewide system, and then we alphabetize them in boxes by district, and they are kept in a locked vault. So all day long, they're in the vault, and then all night long, they're in the vault, and they continue to stay there until Election Day when we take them to the polls to process them.
Any other questions or comments for Diane? Alderman Spiegelberg.
I just want to thank you so much for all your hard work. And are you in a position where you're still looking for a lot of volunteers? It sounds like based on what you're saying.
We have a pretty big list of volunteers, and we have just emailed them out this week asking them to commit to any of the days we need volunteers for, and because that's what they, reached out to us and said we want to volunteer. I've asked for a deadline by October 12th to have answers, so I know if I'm short or not. We're trying to use the volunteers rather than city staff, because of course all staff has other work to do, but we have been using city staff on occasion, and we will if we need them. We're trying to limit exposure and keep social distancing and all those things, and so we had a pretty good practice, if you will, when we did it in April and in August, but it still is challenging to put all these pieces together. I just want to mention one of the hugest time draws right now for us is the calls we're getting from voters wondering where can they drop off their ballot because they do not want to put it in the mailbox. And we are encouraging voters that, we have a wonderful relationship with our postal service here in the city of Oconomowoc, and they work very hard with us. They call me, we're in contact. We completely trust their procedures and processes in place, but we do tell the voters if they are not comfortable, they can drop it off at City Hall or put it in the drop box on the side of the building. And it's amazing how many are being put in that drop box. So they do have return postage on them, but they're putting them in the drop box.
Alderman Shellpepper.
I'm kind of new to this, so I'm trying to learn in terms of actual election day. If there's issues at a certain polling location, does the city field those complaints, or is that fielded somewhere else? If someone has an issue with something happening at the polling site?
The chief inspector at the poll is basically the supervisor, and they are the first line to try and address that concern. If they're unable to address it, or if the voter is not satisfied, they give the voter my number, or they call me, and sometimes I have to go to the poll, and I have to take care of whatever situation it is, or I talk to the voter on the phone. Sometimes voters go right to the State Elections Commission with a complaint or a concern, or they go to the county clerk, who in turn call me right away, and then I have to address it.
Is that the same for like a third-party observer? So not somebody that's necessarily voting, but, these watchers?
There's observers, right.
Yeah.
If they do have a concern, they should voice it with the chief that's there.
Okay.
But if, I've had phone calls from them, I've had letters over the years. They also go to the Elections Commission or to the county clerk, but ultimately, I answer for it all.
Okay. And is that pretty common? Do you expect a higher volume of complaints this
No, I
election
don't,
day?
no, I
Okay.
do not. I don't expect there will probably be some, but we try very hard, anytime a voter has a question, to fully explain it. Because one of the problems where voters get upset is they don't totally understand something, and they've heard something from a neighbor or a relative, and every municipality might do things a little differently, the way we do our processes, but ultimately, in the end, it's all the same. It totals the same, but so they get concerned. So it's educating them, and we work very hard to do that when we talk to them. And usually that takes care of things, but there are, every now and then, no matter what you say, there's no satisfaction.
Well, I just want to thank you too as well. Obviously it's a really important duty, and you guys have been super busy, I can only imagine. So I really appreciate that, and it's so important that we get it right, because we don't want to be on the news regardless,
Right.
for whatever happens. We want to be, buttoned up, squared away, and I'm sure that's what we'll be. So I can definitely have faith, with you leading the team. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Appreciate that. And so do Chris and Tina, because we do work very hard to get it
Tina as well.
right
Yep.
and to make us shine.
Thank you, Diane. Do we have any further questions?
One more.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Alderman
Just
Gawdeski.
more of a clarification for public record. If it's being mailed in, either absentee or mail-in, it needs to be in the city office by what date?
All absentee ballots, statutorily, as of right now, we must have received them by 8 p.m. on Election Day, November 3rd. And we don't get mail service at 8 p.m. So if you still have your ballot and you think, oh, I missed the mail, you have to bring it in. You've got to physically take it to the poll or to the clerk's office so we can get it processed.
Good, and I appreciate that clarification. I know there's some people who are questioning when it needs to be in, so I just wanted that on the record for anybody that was wondering. And thank you to you, your staff, and all the volunteers for all the time that's being put in and about to be put in, so thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any comments or reports from the aldermen? Alderman Zapfel.
Just happy birthday to the council president.
Ah, happy birthday.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Never been kissed. Yeah. Since we have no comments or reports from the mayor, do I have a motion to one moment.
Yeah, just-
Alderman Rozak.
Yeah, real brief. Welcome to formerly Captain, now Chief Pfister, to his new position. We wish you the best of luck as chief. One observation, and I don't know why, but it was a pretty big decision by the Police and Fire Commission, and I only see one member out of the 5 voting members here tonight. And I think that moving forward on a big decision like that, there'd be more support from the Police and Fire Commission for that decision. I don't know why they weren't here, but it was a big night for the city and a big night for you, Chief, and I would hope that more members of the PFC would have been here for that swearing in.
Any further comments? A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have